Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced new visa restrictions targeting the illicit flow of fentanyl into the U.S. In a statement issued by the State Department, Rubio said, quote, imposing visa restrictions on drug traffickers, their families, members, and close personal and business associates will not only prevent them from entering the United States, but it will serve as a deterrent for continued illicit activities. And joining us now to discuss this new visa restrictions is Victor Avila. He's a retired special agent with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and author of the book Agent Under Fire. Good afternoon, Victor. Can you tell us how effective that you think this is, targeting families and associates of traffickers? How likely is it going to be effective?
I think it'll be very effective because it's a reminder that it's not just the drug dealer. That a lot of us have this idea of what a drug dealer looks like, of this person that actually sells the fentanyl from one person to another, but the tentacles of the narco traffickers that goes beyond that one person. A lot of people in the United States that you would never imagine that they're tied to these cartels and pushing the fentanyl. And yes, family members as well. So keeping them from having the ability to come into the United States by removing and taking away their visa, I think it's a great move by the secretary.
You know, it is a bit shocking and surprising as well for me to hear that family members could be involved, but I guess that's just reality. But my question is, what if innocent family members are caught up in these visa bans? Do you think this new policy strike the right balance?
Well, it's not that maybe that innocent family members will get caught up here, but what it's doing is actually doing and providing an actual vetting, a very true vetting of the individuals. Now we're actually paying attention to your associates, to your family members, whoever might be linked to these narco traffickers and fentanyl pushers, that in fact, if you have any link to one of them, we don't want you in the country. I've seen this expanding to the music artists, by the way, that have their visas been taken away, so they won't come and perform in the U.S. because they're linked to cartel activity. So obviously, we want to look at it very closely and make sure that it doesn't affect people that are innocent of this, but it will definitely be looked at on a case-by-case basis to eliminate anybody that in fact does have that linkage.
So Victor, on top of that, the Treasury Department also recently imposed sanctions, right, on 3 Mexican finance firms over China's fentanyl trade. And the Treasury is saying that the firms had played a long-standing and vital role, actually, in laundering millions of dollars on behalf of Mexican cartels and facilitating payments to obtain precursor chemicals for fentanyl production. On this, how effective, in your opinion, are financial sanctions in disrupting the money flow behind fentanyl trafficking?
Probably the best way to actually combat the cartels. We know that if you follow the money, in my career, the money laundering aspect of the cartels is vital to their dismantling and destruction of their organizations. It's what they're here for. They're here for the power and then the money, that the billions of dollars that they're making. When you attack them, and in this case, FinCEN, labeling them and putting them in these categories to freeze some of their assets, it's a great move because we know that the drugs come north, the money goes south, but then the money comes back north and it's implemented through money laundering schemes into the world banking system. Any business that you can imagine, the cartels are involved in trying to clean their money and all these illicit funds. When you identify those funds, you get to freeze them, and that's where you actually start to hurt them, so you won't get allow them to continue to work with the money that they've been receiving. All of this by not just drugs, by the way. The narco traffickers and these cartels are involved in many other aspects of many other businesses that have nothing to do with drugs. Human smuggling and human trafficking being another one. But they're involved in the illegal petroleum trade, for example, the theft of petroleum trade, and many other ways where they make millions of money and they want to incorporate it back in the banking system. This eliminates that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Victor. Going after the money, in my opinion, always a good bet here. Can you also talk to us about China's role here, right? What does China have to gain on precursor chemicals?
Well, this is the problem with Mexico and the relationship that China has with Mexico. And yes, unfortunately, those precursors and the chemicals are still making their way into Mexico. Now, there's been a lot of pressure, obviously, on China to make them do that, because without these chemicals, these labs wouldn't exist in Mexico. And the fentanyl and meth, by the way, does not forget about the methamphetamine that's produced in Mexico as well. That right now is prime number one thing that's being smuggled into the United States is meth and cocaine, believe it or not, as fentanyl has dropped a little bit. But China has to be held accountable. Mexico needs to be held accountable by allowing their ports to be used, especially the port of Manzanillo, that you probably haven't heard about, is probably the number one seaport where these precursors come in through. So there's a lot to be done there. There's way, way more to be expected from Mexico and China to then affect the cartels from pushing this poison into our country.
And Victor, if you don't mind, can we just go a little deeper into this? How do Mexican cartels exactly work with China?
Well, the number one word is corruption, right? They allow these chemicals to come in. They get paid. The officials down there, the seaports, get paid. The chemicals, the precursors come in containers. They are now trucked into from the southern port of Mexico, especially the one in Manzanillo, but they also use the one in Veracruz and others. And then they trucked in to the mountainous regions of where these hundreds of super labs are located around the country of Mexico, where the cartel has 100% control of them. Now, I'll give credit. Mexico has been taking down some of these labs and these areas, and that's a good thing. But there's so many more out there still producing, especially the pills that look exactly like a pharmaceutical pill, like Oxycontin, like Xanax, like all these pills that are making their way into our campuses and killing 22 students a week in the United States. That is an alarming statistic. 65% of high school students think that it's okay to take a pill that is not coming from a U.S. pharmacy. These are alarming statistics that still is a big problem within the United States, and the root cause is down there with China and Mexico allowing this to come in.
Wow, 20 students a week. I was expecting you to say maybe like a month or some other time frame, but that's incredible. How would you say, Victor, how directly involved is the Chinese state or the Chinese Communist Party in the export of fentanyl precursors?
They're the number one cause. I mean, think of the bigger picture. The cartel, if you really think about it, are the soldiers and the distributors. And yes, they're making billions of dollars. But the big problem here is not just China, but Venezuela, Cuba, and other countries that are aligned with Mexico. And Mexico, for some reason, doesn't want to tackle that. They don't want to nip it in the bud in their country to allow it to even come in. Mexico denies that they even have, at one point, denied have a fentanyl problem. And this is the issue that the United States and the Trump administration is dealing with Mexico. There's a big problem in Mexico, also with usage in Mexico. They do have a big addiction problem there as well. So we have to work, bilaterally here with Mexico to be able to combat that. But we have to get Mexico to address the issue, and maybe the pressure from the United States would once and for all allow them to start working. And literally comes down to law enforcement down at the ports of entry. The same things with weapons and same thing with other issues. Mexico needs to get on board too. Because the solution here is that it helps everyone. It makes Mexico a safer country as well as the United States.
Well, Victor, really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us about this. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Next, the Israeli